Hi there. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight and welcome. I'm Karen Coleman. I'm the founder of The Future of Film is Female, and I'm super happy tonight to be joined by the filmmakers behind the new brilliant film, BELLE, My Beauty, the writer and director, Marian Hill, producer Kelsey Scott, and the director of photography, Lauren Gutierrez. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to Tropical Storm New York. First, I just want to say congratulations on this film and congratulations on your opening weekend. I said this to you just a few minutes ago, but it's very exciting and satisfying to see filmmakers being able to present their films in front of real audiences. And despite the fact that this is virtual, I'm really happy that you were able to join me tonight. So how has the weekend been? Or how are you all doing? Maybe I'll ask that question.
We're doing very well. Yeah, the New York was a crazy, we started energy up here in New York City for a couple days and had our premiere at the Angelica and just had it was fun to all be together again. We were still getting into the groove of things, but now we're in LA, we're all feeling good. We had our landmark premiere last night and it was just being able to see the film in that quality theater for the first was that was amazing.
I'm sure the sound was probably really appreciated to have it in like a proper setting.
Yeah, absolutely. It made such a difference for this film to see it.
We haven't like been together as a cast and a crew since we shot. Like a lot of us have seen each other in small pockets, but this is the first time a lot of us have like reunited in person. So it's like a really special thing to like just do this together again. So we're
I know seeing three people in one shot's really nice. When did you shoot?
September 2019.
Okay, so good timing.
Been very, very lucky and blessed throughout the past 3 years with things like that.
Yeah. You gotta like skate. Yeah. So I was saying this earlier that I love having the filmmakers behind a film, and so it's really nice to have a DP, producer, writer, director. So I think the perfect way to sort of start off though is when we talk about like a team is how do you all know each other and sort of how did you become involved in this project together?
Yeah. You want to start, Lauren?
I can start. Yeah.
We go back the farthest.
Yeah. Mary pulled focus on like the first short film that I ever shot. Maybe the second. It was the second one, but
we were babies.
Yeah. There's a photo of us when we're at like a Red One, which for the uninitiated, it's just like an ancient camera. It was like the one that our school had at the time, and I think we were probably 19.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like 20 or 21. Marion was 19. And yeah, so like it's almost 10 years in the making. Back. Yeah, but we had never worked together as director and DP before. But yeah, met from that college filmmaking experience.
And then so Lauren came to me in a dream when I was putting this.
What?
When I
literally don't know this.
You don't know this?
No.
That happens to me where someone comes to me and then I wake up and call them and I haven't I don't know. So Lauren was one of those people. I hadn't really thought about who was going to shoot the film for a while, and then as soon as I called Lauren the next day after I had a dream, and then after that we were just like, Lauren was in it, before I even had producers. We were talking about she was kind of really helping me figure out what I needed to do to get it done. And so that was, we started really early on as collaborators. And then
Kelsey.
So Marion and I were in the same artist collective called Goddess House. So very kind of like the DIY New Orleans art scene, a group of like incredible artists of every different kind of, from musicians, poets, writers, filmmakers, primarily like centering queer femmes of color, and allies. And so Marion and I just like really hit it off, and we started working just on music videos together, and I produced their short Goddess House, named after our and that short was like it was just such a positive experience for like everybody across the board. And I think we just like our styles like really aligned, and my background is in like the visual art world, so I had never really produced, but Marion was like, I think you'd be a good producer, so I'm only produced now because Marion decided that for me. But it's cool because it's like our background coming from this very like community art background, I think that really imbues so much of like our whole process of like very community oriented work. And so like I think in BELLE, as we will talk about more, but it's such very much like emerges directly out of these different communities. So it feels like a special way that's like the root of our relationship too. So.
I love that. So to get into the meat, the film has kind of explores this idea of boundaries, and within kind of your cast of the four main people, and it's really reflected in like the landscape. And so when you were writing this, did you kind of have rural France in your mind, or was there a point in which you knew that a space like this would become sort of central to the narrative?
That's so interesting. Boundaries in the landscape. I have to think on that one.
Well, I mean, it's like you're trying, like the characters in a way are sort of like, they're close, but sort of pushing each other away. And it's also in like Lauren's cinematography as well. You have a lot of really intimate shots, but then there are these kind of pull back, like wide, expansive spaces, which doesn't really happen in a city, right? Like if you're in a city, everything is just sort of on you all the time. And so, but just also basically, why this place?
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that observation. The place actually came before most things. That's a small village in France called Anduze, where I largely grew up, actually. So it's kind of a family place for me. We had, that house is in my family, so we were able to shoot there. And I kind of always knew I was going to shoot my first feature there. Mainly because it was the place I felt the most connected to the community and the culture, and had built the most memories, as a young person. So I kind of was just so very able to visualize the film in this place, from the absolute birth of the story.
So from like the get-go, it was going to be New Orleans and France.
New Orleans came afterwards.
Yeah.
Because I had, always been thinking about what story I would write to take place in that house, but that was before I even moved to New Orleans. And so when I got to New Orleans, started building my community, making a feature started to feel like a real possibility.
Yeah.
It was kind of a time and place thing in that regard.
I mean, I guess it's a good space that you are familiar with it, because doing your first feature internationally seems like it would present some challenges. So I guess, Kelsey, this question is sort of for you. What was your pre-production and production process like?
I mean, it was pretty wild because like it was also my first feature, and I don't speak a word of French, as Marion will happily tell you. I still butcher the title of the film to this day.
Yes, my apologies as well.
You did better than Kelsey.
Yeah, shame on me for that. But I mean, it was so wild, and I think like it was a really interesting way to enter into the world of producing a feature, having it be international. But it really helped Marion, like because of Marion's roots and resources in this specific place. Like if we had nothing on the ground there, it would have been a whole different scenario. But we really had like a whole network built in to, there were definitely a lot of and again, as a non-French speaker, some interesting hiccups, but like we were very blessed with like the community in Anduze who were like instrumental in making this possible at all.
Yeah, and we had a good friend of mine he was French, a Parisian, but I had actually met her in New Orleans, and she had moved back to France a couple years before this project, and I called her, and she has nothing to do with movies. She's a musician, but she's a very just natural manager.
Absolutely.
Like the most, and just, you know, someone everyone wants to be around.
She's amazing.
So she just came down and kind of acted as the bridge for, you know, the producers and the team with the locals, and kind of just, yeah, we would have been really in tough shape without her.
Yeah, she was like a fixer.
Her name is Lisa, by the way.
Yeah, Lisa was like the fixer and the production coordinator, kind of all wrapped in one. Yeah.
And then our fellow producer Ben Matheny, bless his heart and soul, he does speak French, and he is on.
His French is pretty good.
Yeah, I would say, I guess speak was a little bold of a
get by.
made it work.
I mean, the film does have this very communal vibe to it, and was shooting it like that as well. Like, did it feel like work? I mean, watching it, I'm like, oh, this is the perfect summer movie to watch. You know,
it was pretty dreamlike. Yeah, we all lived in that house and in the two neighboring houses who were friends putting us up, and yeah, it was, you know, really unique kind of production because everyone's there, everyone, you know, we're all also cohabitating in this like retreat camp. So yeah, I think it was, you know, there's a lot of translations. I mean, these guys were hanging every night. Yeah. These were some of the latest chillers. You know, after dinner, I was like, okay, no. Well, or we would shot list over wine at the end of the night and just be like, yeah, you know, at 1 a.m, sitting at the dinner table planning the next day. It was just a very all hands on.
A huge part too though was that like we had so many really like gifted musicians from all over the world, so like we would get to have jam sessions with like world-class musicians in like this beautiful French like countryside like every night. It was just so like,
it was pretty divine.
It was really magical.
Yeah.
You want to meet Lane? Lane is standing right
yes
here.
Let's say hi.
Where is that? And Birdie might show up too.
Yeah.
This is great. Hi. You're wonderful in the film.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. How is your French? Is it what, did you come in knowing French, or did you crash course it?
Neither. Yeah. You know, they say fake it till you make it.
I do know, yes.
With the le faux français, c'est vraiment la vérité. Dépasse pas. Oui. Ok, à bientôt. Merci.
Au revoir. Au revoir.
You know, it's like delightful every day was working with you guys.
Yes, this is amazing. I'm enjoying it all the way virtually. So, Maren, you wrote, directed, edited the film. So I would imagine that there was a specific sort of vision kind of coming into this, but so my question is to all three of you, you know, how did you collaborate to sort of work together to get like, say like those right beats, like in cinematography, and how did that change when, you know, you all kind of came on board and the actors came on board too?
You will remember this better than I, what our process was developing. So I started, at least in the script side of things, I started first with music. Mahmoud and I, we're both based in New Orleans, and we just he agreed to work with me after he did the music for our short Goddess House. And we kind of just were developing melodies and ideas very much, and like putting playlists together at the beginning of the script writing process, so that by the time I got to Lauren, the first thing I did was send you a playlist.
Yeah.
And I always do this. I always make people listen to, I provide tracks for when they're reading the script. And so that was how we started. And then we talked big picture first. You don't know. We talked.
Yeah, like being informed by pacing is so huge. Like I find music sometimes to be more useful than visual references in terms of like the quantity of shots you're getting. And I find it more useful to determine the quantity of shots you're getting and the kind of the pacing of them and the kind of movement. Because like even as somebody who's only ever been like a very casual musician, you know, like cinematography, filmmaking is a temporal art form, and that's kind of the overlap to me. And so hearing a piece of music, you can automatically imagine like how fast the cuts are going to be. You know, not for certain, like of course I would like defer to the director on that, but yeah, it just helps communicate the mood. And so hearing that music was huge. And also like seeing your work on Bird of Prey and Goddess House, that more than anything was like so key, because you know when you have a director with a really distinct way of seeing the world, like you watch a Lynn Ramsey film and you're like, oh, I get it, that's Lynn Ramsey. Like you have this thing too where like I watched the film and I was like, I get it. And so seeing that work was so important to, you know, developing the strategy for BELLE. But really pacing is kind of like the backbone.
That's so interesting. Yeah, and you also really knew how to ask, because for me, when I'm picturing a scene, I have a rhythm, but I don't necessarily realize that there's a specific rhythm to it. And then Lauren's like, "What is this? How are you cutting this?" And then I'm like, "Oh, well, it's like this the whole time. Didn't you know that?" And then Lauren would be like, "Yes, okay, got it." That's so interesting.
So do you know kind of when you're writing, like when the edit cuts are going to be? Like, do you just have that kind of like all encompassed vision, or is it something kind of more like when you're shooting, you kind of are working, going like editing while shooting in a way, like this is?
Well, by the time we're shooting, we definitely know what the shots are.
Yeah.
And, you know, because but that doesn't happen until like we're shot listing, which is literally right before we shoot. But I would say I know not everybody writes this way, but when I write, I can see the frames, you know, in my head. So yeah, it's kind of this like, it's always there to some extent.
And to clarify, like, I don't know if anyone has said this yet, Marion also edited the whole film.
Yes, that's what I was getting. It's a triple threat.
To be editing while you're shooting to make something like this in 12 days. It's like it's not possible to shoot in 12 days without that approach. Yeah.
And there were times Lauren would try and give me a shot and I'd be like, "Lauren, I don't want it." And she'd be like, no, Marion, let's do this. I'd be like, "Lauren, I don't want it," because you know, but then sometimes you can there was one time, did I ever tell you, in the river scene, I was like, "I don't want this shot," and you were like, "You might want this shot," and I was like, "Fine."
Did
and
I
totally used it.
Wait, which shot is it?
Just that low angle of Wayne sitting on the bank, kind of looking over at Noah. And
oh, sure. Yeah.
It's very brief, but I needed it.
I'm glad it was useful.
No, you're right.
But I'm always learning to be like less, not argumentative, but you know.
Oh no, you're not argumentative. This is negotiation. This is the whole job. You know, no, it's never arguing.
Yeah, but I will say, as prepared as we were for like a lot of the shot listing, and as specific as we were for some scenes, there's some things like in the market that we couldn't have predicted.
Totally.
And like, there's delight and like surprise when you're in a scenario that you can't always control. Like when Birdie was getting fish at the market, and that was all like totally improvised, and you and I were like dying at the monitor.
So good.
As soon as Idella found a window and she's like trying to weave her way around these people, someone at the market would like step in and totally block her from the camera, and it happened 3 times in a row. And that wasn't planned at all, but it was like,
and then just as the people open up, she orders the fish. It was like the timing too of what happens. Yeah, that was one. We had one chance to do that.
Yeah, and it worked. Yeah, the movie gods were good to us.
And like,
Speak of the devil.
Oh,
wait.
We have Bernie in the house.
Hi.
Welcome. You
Thank
look fabulous, and you're fabulous in the film.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Are you enjoying opening weekend?
Yeah. So I'm about to go watch it for the first time.
No way.
Not for the first
Well, no, I know, but like,
big screen. Yeah.
yes. Well, that's important.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, enjoy.
Thank you guys so much.
Bye. And I just want to say, speaking of like unexpected things that you can't anticipate like that, you magical person. But like the scene in the riverbank with hundreds of sheep, we did not plan that, and it just so happened that a herd of like just like those magical movie moments. And
Yeah.
you know, at the market, like we just found that the guitarist, and that's
not true. He has been standing there every day
For years.
But you weren't waiting. You didn't think that, you know, it's just like those things are just like happen so organically that create these like really special things that you would never, you know, be able to expect. And then
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it has to be sort of embracing those magical things that come your way that you just sort of know will make the movie something else.
I think doing that homework though allows you to accept those things, because if you know what you're looking for, like if you know what the backbone is, then you can see the surprises that come and then choose what's useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting kind of back to the idea of music, I was struck by, and it's interesting that you were thinking of music like before you were even writing the script, and because music seems to be totally integral to the film, and not just, you know, Birdie as like a catalyst for Birdie to find her music again. And I know you talked about it a little bit, but like what was the process for you kind of integrating the sound and the music in like the final edit? Was that something different than what you had envisioned in the beginning, or was it very, very similar?
I don't think it was either different or similar in the end. It was just kind of like more of, you know, I think we started out just with kind of journeying, you know, letting ourselves journey through different kinds of music and figuring out where we wanted to, you know, allocate that vibe of that music in the script. And so then once we shot it, it was kind of like the journey just expanded and went these different directions, and we just kept leaning into swerving through different kinds of music. Yeah, and I think we didn't record that much before, so it was kind of like we had these melodies and ideas. But I will say that like coming back, and the first time me and the composer watched the full edit together, it was like just pulling from all these ideas we had been developing for 2 years and like throwing them at the film in like different places. Yeah, does that make sense?
And it's stuck. But no, I mean, it's sound to me, it has been like the one thing I've missed about seeing movies in the theater is the visuals, obviously, because it's always wonderful to see a film huge, but it's also the sound. Like Sound of Metal was like one of the movies I wanted to see most in the movie theater because it was such a part of the film. And so I look forward to seeing this in the theater with sound. It's like, turn it up.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's because there's also we did a lot of immersive stuff with the cicadas, because there's, you know, cicadas throughout this film, but they sound different in every scene, and they're in different places in every scene, and like you just don't get that unless you're in the theater. So go to the theater.
Go to the theater.
And hang out with the cicadas.
If you're vaccinated, go to the theater. So I talked about this earlier, but you have a relatively small central cast. It's really just four characters. And I'm asking you again, Marian, about like how they developed from the writing to when you actually had it cast. Did that change at all when you had the real live people in front of you?
Definitely, because I had real life people in front of me like almost the whole time. Basically, I cast them before writing the script, and it's the three, Hannah, who plays Lane, Idella, who plays Birdie, and Savine, who plays Noah, are all women that I just had in my life, in some capacity or another. And, just kind of gave them ideas of what I wanted to do and when I planned to do it, and they were into it. And with each of them, I kind of developed the character in conversation with them, and had them read drafts and tell me what they were responding to and what they weren't. And so, and that was really helpful for me as a writer, because I got to know all of them. I knew all of them really well, so I was able to kind of be thinking about the way they talk and their habits and their just energy, as I was determining what was going to happen with these 4 people.
Yeah. And Kelsey, were you involved in the casting?
Not really. A little bit. I had known Hannah from like their work in the theater world of New Orleans. So that just felt like a really natural fit, because we had kind of, Idella was like locked in, and then I think Hannah came a little bit later in the process. And the second, like, because Hannah's like from a different part of my life than Marion, and so the second that like Hannah's name entered the ring, it was like, this is Lane, like it has to happen. So and then Fred was the only one that was kind of like not connected to any of us beforehand, but I think Lucien, who plays Fred, did a beautiful job. And that we kind of it worked out. I think he gave so much to Fred that we didn't even anticipate would come into that character. So the casting, I think we really lucked out with everybody.
I mean, it's really perfect. You kind of couldn't imagine like anyone else in these roles, and they feel as if they have, I mean, the actors like have known each other for a really long time, and you sort of, without knowing the exact back history, it like really is very present just in how they are with each other. And I hope they do a lot more stuff, because I loved watching all of them.
Yeah, that's the hope. Yeah, that it was pretty awesome to watch, how they all just instantly enjoyed each other and inhabited that relationship. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
One question I had is, at the end of the film, we sort of see people kind of separating and going on their own journeys. And I wondered, like, to each of you, what do you envision happens to Birdie and Lane and Noah, like, after they leave?
Yeah.
What do you, I mean, does Birdie go on tour? Does she do it? Did this work? Or do you want to say?
I mean, it was pure speculation on my part. I feel like it's up to the director to divulge.
No.
Yeah,
but
that's what
I'd
I'm
love to
saying,
hear.
yeah.
Thank you. You're right, but I'd love to hear your versions of it.
Well,
You go first.
I know Kelsey's got one.
No, yeah. I mean, am I allowed to give spoilers for the ending?
But I'll just say spoiler alert. So mute this if you haven't seen the film yet. But I would imagine that people have seen the film.
Okay, so if that is cool, I'm obsessed with the ending. I think I love the ambiguity, because we tried different versions that were a lot more happy for me, a lot more clear cut, and I think this one, to me, I love. It feels so. It honors the truth of what I think actually would have happened, and it feels like it respects like these characters as like fully fleshed out beings. For me, I think that Lane would go off with Noah, and I think very quickly all of the problems that led Lane to this moment in the first place would continue to show up in this like very impulsive decision to leave with this like new lover. So I maybe 10 years later they would have another reunion in like Fred and Bertie's new house in like Barcelona. But I think the way it exists though. I think there's such a beauty in the ambiguity, and that like, maybe a week later Elaine would come back. Like I think that there's a magic to me in like how endless. There's so many different things that could happen after the camera cuts. So I think that's, you guys did a really good job in like letting us all decide, the viewers, like getting to kind of run with like, what everyone, because everyone has very different takes on a lot of stuff. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is that like based on the ending, I think it's the kind of thing where like Lane and Bertie like cannot talk to each other again for a long time. And when they do reconnect, there's sort of the unfinished business about like Bertie's mom dying, and like it seems like they never really discussed that, but you have this beautiful scene of like Lane lighting candles at the altar, and I feel like when they reconnect, that's something that they would talk about. But I don't know, something else I think would be interesting, Lane aside, is like I wonder if Marianne would come back into Fred's life at some point, and then Marianne and Bertie would have things to learn from each other about their relationships with Fred. Like, yeah, I remember like specifically the direction you gave Lucian about Fred and Marianne's chemistry, and you said you guys had a lot of sex when you were teenagers.
When he was a teenager, and she was slightly older.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's the age gap. But anyway, I think that would be an interesting like love triangle to explore.
Marianne is there's a quick scene. Oh, yeah. She only shows up for a minute, but she's kind of like the stand-in for Bertie. If Bertie doesn't go on tour, Marianne offers to like fill that place. But very cool. Only a couple minutes on screen, but like very cool role, and I love that actress like killed it. So.
I mean that that was palpable. Like you got that. I mean, I love how the story just kind of lingers with you. It's not just like hard cut. Like the ending allows you to live with it for a little bit longer. But I was just curious as to everybody's pontification as to where the lives of these fabulous characters would go. Are you going to say anything, Marianne, or no? You don't have to. You did your version. That's fine.
What I was actually thinking about is how I think Noah was just giving Lane a ride to the airport, and Lane was going to Spain.
I kind of something new every day.
I mean, I know people think otherwise, but for me, that's what it's always been.
That's so funny.
Well, I kind of wondered the same thing too, because when the car picks her up, I'm like, this is a very nice car picking her up. But I didn't know if maybe they gonna have a little something before.
That's how the taxis are.
Yeah. Very tinted windows.
Yeah. That taxi guy was pretty fun.
He was funny.
Yeah, he was very he was great. Axel Taxi.
Did you wind up casting a lot of people from the neighborhood or the community there? Yeah.
From the neighborhood, yeah. They were so thrilled. It was really fun. None of them spoke English. The taxi guys we literally called a taxi company. Send a taxi for an hour.
Right.
I came, and it was so funny.
He must have been delighted.
One day his kids will see the movie somehow online and be like, "Is that you?"
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's interesting that you say that, because like I've been working on this film with Marianne for like 3.5 years, and I've never heard that Lane and Noah were just carpooling.
I know.
Ride share.
No, but it's cool too, because like also Bertie, Idella, who plays Bertie, and Hannah, who plays Lane, were like telling me that they also had like created these like whole narrative arcs between that like don't show up on camera at all. So it's just cool how much like inner world work everybody did on these characters beyond just what you see on screen. There's been so much thought put into like every part of the story before, after, and maybe
Well, we're winding down, but I like to end every conversation I do with the question, because we're the future of film is female. And so my question is about the future. What is something that you are looking forward to in the future? And it can literally be anything. It can be the next project. I'm going to swim on the beach, more wine, whatever. Lauren, do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, like, I think the question of like, or not the question, but the notion that the future of film is female is interesting to me. And it's something that I think about a lot when we talk about women being nominated or not for cinematography Oscars, or when we talk about like Oscars so white and things like that.
Yeah. There's
a certain degree to which I think those conversations are important, but I'm looking forward to, you know, seeing how that changes in the next few years as it becomes like more normal to see different types of people making movies. And hopefully, in my opinion, I think to see that conversation change and not just think about like, oh, like, why isn't there representation in the Oscars? Like, of course there's not representation in the Oscars. That's like not what they're really about at the end of the day. And, you know, how can we focus our attention on higher priorities? Do you know what I'm saying? Like in independent art and in things where like, that kind of creativity can actually thrive. I feel like, you understand what I'm
totally
getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about queer cinema, which I had this conversation the other day, and with Film Fatales, and we were talking about queer cinema. It was the same thing, like when can it stop being queer cinema,
right,
and just be cinema. And so that's a really good point. I agree with that.
Well, I think the challenge with that is that, you know, I mean, for me, the future will just be the future of film, right? And that'll happen when things start being, you don't have to say, look at this. Like, you don't have to say, you know, Annette is shot and edited by women. Like, there are present or non-binary filmmakers. Like, you shouldn't have to, but it's a sad fact that sometimes you do in order for it to be normalized. And then hopefully one day it will be normalized, and then it is just cinema. What story do you want to see today? Because it's really about storytelling.
Right. Yeah, I'm also looking forward to going to the beach tomorrow. It's been a busy weekend.
I'm sure.
How many days?
Not even, it's like 4 or day 4.
Yeah,
We've just had premiere, but
so tomorrow we actually will have some time together to relax. Really nice. What about you, Kelsey?
I'm excited. I think that the production process of this, I think, was pretty life-changing for everyone involved. And so I think just the way, like, not to be corny, but like we very much formed a film family, and like it was just such a collaborative, safe space for people to like really feel held and listened to and lifted up. And like, so I think just like I'm excited to see where everybody goes. Like, I think that like Marion like really set a really high bar in like creating a family for all of us. And you know, whether we collaborate in whatever pockets that continues to happen, I think my whole view of like what filmmaking looks like and can feel like, I feel so blessed that this was the you know, the blast off for me. So yeah.
No, I totally agree. That makes me want to like cry, because I really do feel like, you know, especially in the past like year and a half, the thing is that like we're all in this together. And you know, I'm a film programmer, and sometimes that can be very isolating. But one thing that has happened in the past year or so is that people are realizing, especially of a certain generation, that it's about us working together, and lifting each other up and amplifying what we're all doing. So I appreciate that greatly. And I also appreciate your time. I know it's like crazy to talk about a film constantly for like 48, 72 hours. But I'm
having Q&As in my dreams.
I'm sure. Well, oftentimes I'll do like retrospective series of like, well, the screening series we do at MoMA, it's kind of like I catch filmmakers at the tail end of everything and they're kind of like over talking about their film. They're like, yeah. And I get like the one preview where they're like, we're just starting. This is great. But I do appreciate it. And if you want to say where people can see the films at Landmark in Los Angeles, in New York.
Angelica in New York.
Angelica, yes.
Next weekend is going to be our hometown release in New Orleans at the Broad Theater, and in a lot of other cities across the country. I think we're playing in like 40 theaters. So just go to our Instagram, which is ready at say it _belle.film. Our Twitter is mobellefilm, one word, and we have all of our screening times and cities, and
and check out the list of theaters, see if it's not playing in your city or wherever you are, let us know and we'll let Good Deed Entertainment be like, hey,
make it accessible.
They'll make it happen. So yeah, just let us know.
Great. Well, enjoy the rest of your journey with this film, and I look forward to seeing what you all do next.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
Karen.
Bye. Enjoy the beach.